You're joining Dad with the phone right now, and I got a special guest from kind of a different side of things. This isn't really true crime. This is really what's going on right now in America. And so they reached out to me through Facebook. I know very little about what's going on with this. I know just a couple of little snippets that I've gotten, and I'm just going to bring on our guests and we'll start talking, have a chat about what's going on in America. Hope you enjoy. Thanks for watching. There'll be links to all the stuff going on in this video, either on the screen or I'll put them up in the description afterwards. So we'll get going. This is Josh Ellis. I hope I'm saying that right. Josh Ellis, right?
You got it.
All right. Hey, well, Josh is joining us from right here he's coming in from Chicago. And right now my wife just walked in. What do you need, babe?
I have one question and I'm done. Can you just tell me the answer to that? That very first thing that says stop right
there? No. The answer is no.
That first question?
Yeah, the first question. All right. All right, no problem. Josh, give us a little background on where you're at, who you are, and what's this American Revolution, movement going on. And you can go to the website there at the bottom of the screen if you want to see more about it.
So, I'm a similar guy like you. I'm literally in my basement with a curtain behind me and a laptop. This is not some crazy, well-organized thing. We didn't have an organization. It's not a nonprofit. It's honestly just a bunch of people who love the country and love the Constitution that got together and we're figuring this thing out as we go. But I had the idea for basically sending a national message. I was one of the very first ones to actually announce that we should do this. I said, May 1st, we need to do a nationwide movement on all state capitals. We need to go protest and say, this is not okay. And the message that we put out immediately was, I don't care if 49 states release this thing before then. We all still need to stand up because the message needs to be from the United States citizens banding together saying this is not okay ever anywhere to violate constitutional rights of United States citizens.
So when you say they're violating rights, you're talking about what we've been living in the last 30 days, this lockdown.
Yeah, because the message is right. The message is real simple from the governors, and they're only sending half of the message. Their message is we're going to protect you. The other half of that they aren't saying is because they believe you're too stupid to do it yourself. And that's where I have a problem. I don't think Americans are stupid. We've been doing this long enough now, working with the flu, working with MARS, SARS, all these different things, HIV. We can figure out how to protect ourselves. Your job is to educate us on how to do that correctly. That's your job. It's not to protect us. It's to educate us so that we can protect ourselves. That's how America works. So that's really where I kind of said that this is enough. My father-in-law owns a restaurant on the northern part of Illinois, and he was basically shut down. He's not set up for like curbside and drive-through. He's a restaurant, sit-down place. I do water damage and mold remediation, handyman remodeling. A huge chunk of my business is affected, as well as customers. They're not calling when they have water damage in their basement, which means they're going to end up with mold now.
Yeah, so, it's kind of a crazy deal, especially now that we're getting more understanding about what's really happening and stuff. It's unprecedented. We've never done something like this as far as America. Other countries have shut down and locked down on different areas, but we have never done anything like this. How do you think the American public has responded to the lockdown stuff, the stay-at-home order? I won't call it a lockdown. They call it stay-at-home. How do you think America's responded? And then how are we going to come out of this?
Well, I think the American people have done pretty well. They've taken responsibility themselves on a lot of cases, even though they're being ordered to do certain things. I think they're trying to educate themselves. I just took part in a local Kane County, an online kind of virtual meeting that they had for citizens to go on there. And, the chairman invited me on there. Most of them didn't want to do this. Most of them were affected horribly by this economically, their own businesses, whatnot. But most people are questioning the fact that, why am I less likely to get this at a drive-through in Starbucks or McDonald's than I am sitting in my car listening to my pastor in the parking lot? So
Yeah.
I don't think we're stupid. I think we can figure it out. And, I kind of, sorry to take so long answering this, but I kind of relate it to the 40-year-old living in your basement. Can't get a job. He's an artist. He wants to, just kind of chill out. You don't solve that by making him, 3 meals a day and doing his laundry. You solve that by kicking his butt out of the house. And all of a sudden he figures out how to get a job that pays money, how to get an apartment. It ain't going to be a mansion, but he magically figures out how to live on his own. Once you do that, that's the answer. It's not to coddle and nanny us. It's to say, look, you need to figure it out. That's what we're supposed to do as Americans. We're a courageous, proud, free people who are not dumb. And we really need to just be given a little bit of data, and then we're good. We can figure it out.
Do you think this is actually about a virus, or do you think that there are other political? I mean, okay, so you've got a military son, right? You got family in the military.
Yep.
So you're obviously, pro-military, pro-government, America, Constitution. Is this about a reorder of the Constitution? Are they violating Constitution when they lock us at home, stay at home?
Absolutely, because the First Amendment, the right to peaceably assemble, is the easiest violation right there of this, and that's what we are applying civil disobedience to, is that First Amendment right to peaceably assemble. We have the right to gather in any amount of groups that we want. Now, do I think people should? No. Especially not responsibly. My church shut down on their own. They were smart. You watched all the sports arenas. They shut down on their own before there were any shelter in place orders or businesses closing. They did it themselves. They were responsible business owners. That's how we work as a country, and it's not about ordering things. You don't get the right to do that. Dictatorships have that. And I don't think these are evil men, so to speak. I think they're uneducated, and some of them on the Constitution, some of them have admitted it. There was one governor who said, "Oh, I didn't even think about the Bill of Rights." You took an oath of office to uphold the Constitution. How did you not think about that? That is literally one of your main duties. And then another guy I was talking to said, well, I don't really know how this would apply to the Constitution. Like, how are you taking that oath without knowing? It makes no sense to me. I think it's a huge lacking in education of political figures in what their job is. They've confused it. Now they think they are rulers. They think they're leaders. They're not. They're representatives.
Yeah, I mean, how do we go back? Like, they've done it. They've obviously done it, and now they've got this like safer at home kind of order coming out in a lot of states. That's what is going on here in Colorado. My parents are down in New Mexico, and my mom, they're older, and they live up in the mountains. They stay to themselves. But she was down at a Walmart with her husband, my dad, and they were walking into the Walmart, and Walmart refused to let them in. They were wearing masks, but they couldn't walk together. Even people who lived in families. My mom was like, "I sleep with this man," and they weren't even allowing her to walk into the Walmart with her husband. And my mom, I've talked to him a little bit, and I talked to my dad, and I'm more of on the flip side, where I look at this as like a soft training exercise. They use the virus as a way to say, hey, could we shut down the country if we wanted to? And they figured out a way to do it. I think they peacefully did it. Like we haven't seen like riots in the street, burning of trucks and stuff like that, which whoever came up with the plan, stay at home and I like how the president and the national government has said, "Oh, we've allowed the states to do whatever they want." And then the states are like, "Oh, we're allowing municipalities." So it's almost like they're passing the buck. And now it boils down to, and I live in Colorado, and the stay-at-home order, wasn't really enforced. Like, I mean, I went
Yeah.
fishing, I went playing, I went out and lived life normally. So it wasn't like they were arresting people in the streets, at least in my small mountain community. Other places, that's not so the same. They've arrested people for going to the park or being outside. So it's kind of different across the country and how many rights they violated per state. You know, Chicago. What did Illinois do?
Illinois. Well, first off, the governor under emergency powers, they've been up since I think it's like April 7th. Like he doesn't even have this power anymore. First off, second, according like the governor doesn't have the power to shut down businesses.
Okay.
The Illinois Department of Health does. And in a situation like this, where there's like a giant scare, they have 48 hours to either get the owner's consent to shut it down and quarantine it for a serious concern, not just because, or they have to get a court order. They don't have the right to just tell everybody shut down your businesses. Not to mention that the Illinois Constitution is very similar to the U.S. Constitution and grants the same rights.
Okay.
So, as far as that goes, like there's a ton of violations there, First, Second, Fourth, Fifth Amendment. And then, when you step it back, there's also some other interesting stuff going on, especially in Illinois when it comes to the Second Amendment. So there's been a law in the books, and this is similar in many states. You cannot wear a mask and conceal carry at the same time.
Huh.
That is illegal. Now, Illinois is one of those like up there with New York as far as like gun laws go.
Oh,
which is crazy when you say that, a year or two ago, we had a higher murder rate than Illinois or than New York and California combined, but we have the strictest gun laws. So obviously it's not working.
Tell me if I'm wrong, though. When we talk about Illinois, you've got like farm Illinois, and then you have Chicago, and like Chicago almost like runs the votes of Illinois when you come to gun rights. Because I know the farmers in Peoria down there, would be, you take my guns, and we'll have the same thing with the mountain men here in Colorado. We have Denver that kind of run the voting public or the votes and the gun rights, but then the rural mountain towns, I live in a county per people than per people, more people, different states are applying this. And then what they got away with, they did it. It's not a matter of if they didn't do it. So now we're at a point where things are starting to ease up, and you guys are organizing like a big party to show up on the Capitol steps. That's what this American Revolution 2.0 is all about, right? Tell me about what's going on tomorrow. This is going on tomorrow, right? Or
tomorrow.
The first. Tomorrow.
Tomorrow, man.
Tell me what's happening tomorrow.
So tomorrow we have 52 different protests across all 50 states planned out, scheduled. And I'm hoping the way we're pushing it, it's going to be tens of thousands of people at each of these. Because we're working with other groups that are aligned, great group in, national group, the United States for Medical Freedom group. They're very aligned with this. A lot of Second Amendment advocates are aligned with this. They're on board. Several right-leaning organizations, the Libertarians, Tea Party, stuff like that. They're getting on board with this and all coming out to show support. But it's a protest. But I tend to refer to it more as a party, like you said, because with a protest and the way some of these earlier ones are going on, they're going out and they're saying, let us open up. That's not the message. The message isn't you give me permission. I own my freedom. You work for me. That you don't get to tell me that I can't go outside my home. So this is a statement that we own our rights. And tomorrow, the day after that, so it'll be the 2nd, we're opening back up, and you don't have any power to stop us. That's what this is. This is a statement that we, the people, are what this country is about, and you are representatives, not rulers.
Yeah. It's crazy what they've done, man.
Oh, it is.
It's wild to sit and say that we live in this time. Like, we never get to go back before the virus. You know, what do you think about this whole virus thing? What do you think? Is it as serious as shutting down the country?
Well, and this is the problem with
and
that.
I know we're not virus experts.
Right, but here's the problem with that entire argument, right?
Okay.
If the argument is that the virus isn't that serious, all that says is it wasn't serious enough to do this. Something that's more serious, it's okay. And the message needs to be, this is never okay.
Okay.
So we I understand, like, we need to find out what the heck happened and do the investigation on how all this false information came about to create this. But that's all background data. The bottom line is they did something that never is okay. It would be a horrible, tragic thing if we had a virus that came through and wiped out half the population of the United States. It would be absolutely tragic, but it's still not okay even under those circumstances. And that's the message that we want.
That's like that real. Yeah, that's the real message, is that, like, it's never okay to take away a freedom.
Right.
That's like an inherent right upon all men to be free, right? To be able to business, to travel, to do these things. Against, with the constitutional blessing, right? That's what makes America America.
Yeah, inalienable rights. And if you're a religious man, they are granted by God, not the government. You know, and if you're not religious, then they're just granted to you, whatever. However it is, those are rights of the United States citizen and part of being in this country. They're not something that's granted. There's no permission slip. The Constitution is the permission slip.
And I've heard you talk about in one of your videos, there is no clause for a virus, right? There's like exception to the rule. You're not free until a virus comes. You're not free until a pandemic. You're not free even in time of, I guess in time of war is a little different maybe, but I don't even know what would happen, because we've been, like, I guess they say we've been invaded by an invisible enemy. And they're using it like a war on an enemy, but that's how they always saw things: the war on drugs, the war on this, the war on that. So it's like, just say it's a war on whatever, and we get away with locking people up, or shutting people down.
Well, first off, let's look at how well they did with the war on drugs, right? The solution was, after 20 years or whatever, they legalized pot. That's what they did. That's how they won the war. Yeah, I mean, all for it. It never should have been illegal to begin with. But seriously, if you're fighting a war on marijuana, that was the whole DARE program, right?
Yeah.
You
Thank you, Nancy Reagan. Thank you, Nancy Reagan.
You won that war by legalizing it, or you're not effective at all in fighting wars. The war on poverty, look at San Francisco. You got people, pooping in the street. You're horrible at these wars. And they're unwinnable because they are invisible enemies. I don't want a war on disease. You guys are horrible at this stuff. What we're going to do is end up infecting everybody with a disease. That's what's going to end up happening if they're doing a war on disease.
I've said it from the start. The human race has a 100% success rate against any disease ever. We're still here.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's never taken us out. So.
No. And our bodies are meant to adapt. And that's the thing, is like, you're really calling a war on nature. Like, it makes absolutely no sense to call a war on nature, because it's this invisible enemy, and you're going to call martial law because of it. Like, what? There's nobody to bomb. Shut up.
I like how they changed it though, from martial law to just stay at home. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
People, because I was like, martial law is coming. And I just say that because that's a hot term. People don't like, people get off, there's going to be tanks in the streets. That didn't happen. But martial law did happen. Like, stay at home is kind of a martial law clause, shut your business down. Like, even businesses, insurance businesses, I could go down the list: tattoo businesses, hair salon businesses, dog grooming businesses. And that was what was terrifying for me. I really touched me, or went to my heart when I started thinking about my nephew. Since my nephew was 4 years old, he has dreamed nothing more than to be in the NFL. And he has worked through his goals to the point where he was recruited by Division I school, starting wide receiver going into his sophomore year at SMU, who had an incredible season last year, best season they've had in 35 years, best coach they've had in 35 years. He wants to be in the NFL. This is his goal, and he's met every goal all the way up to that. And now they just canceled spring training. And I'm like, ruined this kid's dream, the American dream of being in the, he's still going to get there if the NFL ever opens back up, but it's one of those things. And then I started thinking, but how about the business owner that maybe they're not rich, but they're doing what they love. They've made it. They've got the American dream. They've got their business. They're making it, but they're not prepared to be shut down for months, and talking to business owners. And I do everything online, virtually and stuff. And so being able to work with some business owners, I'm like, hey, this is an opportunity for you. But they're like, Michael, this is an opportunity I never wanted. I want to touch people and be with people. And so it's crazy to think about all the American dreams that were crushed in a month.
Not only that, I mean, think about bigger picture, right? And this is the problem with letting doctors run the economy. Like, they're not economists. I don't think Fauci is necessarily this evil guy out to destroy everybody. I mean, I know there's a lot of stuff on the internet. You can definitely run down that rabbit hole, but if you think about it and try to say, okay, maybe he's not that bad. The bottom line is he has no clue about the economy. Yeah. And when you cause this much economic disaster, here's what happens. Number one, people stay inside, so they're not getting sunlight. That causes depression, right? Number two, they're sitting on the couch in front of a TV screen. The answer was Netflix and chill. So
Tiger King. Yeah. Tiger King.
I'm so glad we're news, not him anymore. But you're sitting in front of a TV screen. What does that do? That messes with your sleep cycles, messes with your body, messes with your mind, causes depression. You got liquor stores open and the marijuana place is open, which, cool. Everybody has their own opinion on that.
Hey, prohibition lasted 3 hours in Colorado. They were like, we cannot, they were like, alcohol stores are closed. Marijuana stores are closed. 3 hours later, never mind, essential business.
Yeah, but you got a bunch of people that are potentially, especially drinking. Drinking leads to domestic violence. So you've got domestic violence on the rise. You got suicide on the rise. You have people who aren't going to the hospital who are having stroke signs and heart attack signs because they're afraid to go to the hospital. Doctors have already said that patient coming in for those things are massively down. They're just dying at home instead, and in larger numbers because they're not getting the help. Now, and then you talk about depression. You have people who are out there with depression, like kicking into high gear. They're able to call in on the phone and get an antidepressant prescription that may not be the right one for them. And most antidepressants have a side effect of suicide or violent tendencies. So you look at this stuff, it's going the medical effects of the economic disaster are going to be even greater than what we're saving.
Yeah, we haven't felt the fallout yet. Everybody's like, oh, it's all going to go back to normal when they open back up. And I don't believe that at all. But the question is, they shut the system down as best as they could. Obviously they kept the grocery stores open, they kept the food places open, but they shut it down. And now the question is, will it reboot? Will it start up again? I guess we'll find out. What do you think? Oh, go ahead.
I honestly think it's up to the American people of how well it does.
So what do we have to do?
Tomorrow's about. That's what tomorrow's about. You have to come out and say that you're okay with taking this on. You're okay with being responsible and figuring this out yourself. Because things would have definitely changed had they not done this in this country. That's undeniable. Had they given us correct information, places would have shut down on their own. Places would have had to adapt. More businesses would have gone online. Like the economy would have changed. Absolutely. Not as drastically and not as painfully as doing it this way. that they would have adapted. Americans are very adaptive people. We've adapted through so many different things. But we would have figured it out, and we would have figured it out in a less painful, less harmful way had we been responsible for doing it. And we're going to now have to do that. All this has done is basically put us behind the curve economically, so that now we're a couple months in now, what, a month and a half, 2 months in, behind figuring it out for ourselves. That's all it's done. It's stunted our ability.
Yeah. And the question will be, the fallout, I don't even know. Like September 11th did something to the economy. 2008, the housing market crash, we did something to the economy. This is on a whole nother level of what's going to happen. What can people do moving forward? What do you or what is your opinion on this? You say, we're going to come together. We're going to show our peaceful protest. We want to assemble. We're going to open back up on May 2nd. The problem is businesses open back up, but people are not just going to be like, oh, the mall's open, let's go shopping at the Gap. They're not going to be spending money at the Gap.
I hope to God not, honestly. And that's part of what I want to create with this is a feeling of connectedness, because that's one of the biggest things that this has done is it's separated us. It's forced us apart from each other. Yeah, people who live alone, they're doing dinner every night for 2 months by themselves. Yeah. That's a horrible thing. They normally go out with friends or whatever, hang out, party. They have human connection. We need to do that on a whole new level. Keep it local, man. I mean, stop shopping at the Gap. If they make their stuff in another country, they should not get your service or your money or your support. It should all go to local businesses, all of it now. And that's what I hope to create with this connection that we're going to do tomorrow.
Do you think we're set up for that? Like, when I look around my house, everything's from China, right? I mean, for real, and China's cheap. I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, we've always thought China was cheap. If it was made in China, it's cheap, and even if I were to go through my phone, my iPhone, my computers, my technology, most of it all comes from China. Yeah. My clothes, Indonesia, different countries, so the question is are American people set up for this? Because we've closed our manufacturing down. That's one thing that I'm not a Trump supporter. I'm not really a government guy. I think I'm more of those people with no God need a government. Like you said, I've been given my rights by a creator, a master designer, whoever put this shit together. If you don't have that higher power, that God, that master designer that you believe in, then yes, you absolutely need a government to tell you what's moral, right. Don't kill people, don't steal people from people, stuff like that. But if you have a higher power, for me, people with no God need a government. And so how do the people who don't believe in that higher power, that actually believe in their government? I thought it was funny though, because a month before this whole thing happened, even the regular person would have been like, yeah, I don't really trust the government. I don't really trust the media. And then all of a sudden, I'm fake news, you're fake news, but the national media is all perfect. The government's so honest now. Oh, trust every politician on the mainstream. And so part of me is I don't want to go down that conspiracy hole, but man, was this an organized plan thought up in a think tank and said, hey, we have this virus thing that's happening. Can we use this to manipulate, or was it just an accident? Hey, this is what
my opinion is it's kind of like the JFK thing, right? We're never going to know whether that was the grassy knoll or some dude, some dude in a building. We're never going to know. They're never going to tell us. But what is important is what we do with it. We have to stop letting them be the only ones who can use a crisis to their benefit. We need to use this crisis to our benefit and join up, because here's what I saw. So there's three separate, there's a separation 3 ways. Everybody knows the first one, of judicial, executive, and legislative. Everybody knows that there's a balance of power between those. So one can't, overtake the rest of them and become a dictator. Now that's been violated in this with the governors, because they've actually, the Supreme or the courts and the legislature are on lockdown too, by the way. But the other balance of power, the three-way split, is between federal, state, and we the people. They're supposed to keep each other in check. And we actually are supposed to have the most power. We, the people, are supposed to have the most power and the most rights and the most freedom. But we've let them take care of us for too long. We let them say, hey, you're smarter than me. You figure it out. I trust you, little by little. And they've slowly eroded our rights. And that's why I named this AmericanRevolution2.org, the American Revolution 2.0, instead of one of these open things, because this isn't a one and done for me. This is we're going back in as we, the people. We're going to create a movement like the Tea Party did, just 10 times bigger. And we're going in and we're taking back our government. We're taking back our constitutional rights in every single angle. This is just battle number one.
Do you think this is me and you, I don't like, I look at the Constitution like it was written with feather and ink. Mm-hmm. And so that's, it's pretty archaic in that sense, right? It's an archaic document. It actually has some fundamental truths that transcend time, right? There's obviously fundamental truths in the Constitution that transcend time and should be forever. But do you think this is an option? Is this an opportunity that they're going to take to they're already rewriting it, right? And not in the sense that say we're rewriting our Constitution. They just ignore the shit they want to ignore and move forward. Yeah, we take an oath. Yeah, we'll swear to this document, but they really don't.
Right. And this is one of the things that I think is important in continuing this fight. Because the Supreme Court's job is not to interpret the Constitution. It's to apply the Constitution. That's where we've had a lot of problem in the past. The Supreme Court comes in and they say, well, we kind of think they meant this in this way, or, you have the right to do it this way. And case law becomes like, scripture all of a sudden. Some judge in what he feels at that moment, five out of 4 or 5 out of 9 judges, what they feel at some moment is not law. The law is already written. There are cases in how to apply it, sure, but it's an application thing. It's not an interpretation. So, when you're talking like Second Amendment, Illinois has a FOID card program. You have to register in order to be able to own a gun.
Okay.
That's a clear violation. It is a law that violates the Second Amendment. You cannot pass a law, period. And nobody should be able to do that. Now, this is where I'm headed with this, is like one of the fights I want to have is a federal law that makes any government official immediately and directly responsible for any violation of the Constitution of any citizen that they represent or meant to protect. Right now, like Governor Pritzker, he has immunity. What are you going to do? You're going to file a class action lawsuit against the governor?
Yeah.
He's not going to take it. It's going to be against the government of Illinois. If they win the lawsuit, not Illinois, but if the people win the lawsuit and money is owed, well, who's going to pay that money? We're going to pay that money. So I'm just taking change out of one pocket and passing it into the other with a middleman who's going to take a fee for processing it. So that's not working either. We need to be able to go after the people who do the crime to do the time. That's how it has to be.
Yeah, it's nobody's getting put in jail over this though.
No.
I mean,
no.
We should. I think they sat around a poker game. I think they
put millions of people on house arrest.
Oh, yeah.
And people are like, oh, no, it's not house arrest. Yeah, on house arrest, you still get to go to your job. You still get to go to the grocery store. You can actually have more freedoms. You can go get your hair cut. Yeah. You can't get your hair cut now.
No, it's one of those things. I sat around when this thing started. I was like, man, they were having a political poker game. And one guy was like, I bet I can get all the American people to buy toilet paper. Watch, I can do it. And the other guy was like, oh, yeah, I bet I can shut down the schools. Oh, yeah, I bet I can shut down Las Vegas. Like when Las Vegas shut down, you're talking about the guys who run Vegas have no moral compass at all. They're money, power. They will pimp out teenagers. They will take your last dollar, no matter what. But when they shut down Vegas, I was like, and then again, I'm a religious man. I've worked in the nonprofit sector. I've worked with the largest mega churches around the country. Is like, oh, we're going to shut down Vegas and we're going to shut down hell and heaven at the same time. Like, we're going to shut down the house of God and we're going to shut down the house of the devil at the same time. And they did it. I mean, at that point, like, I'm a UFC fan, and I think Dana White is the most greediest sports president out there. And he was like, we're shutting down, and so, oh man, it's crazy. It's a crazy time we live in. And, it'll be interesting to see how you and I do work a year from now, how we do life a year from now, because like you said, they have already, if you're an essential worker, the hospitals, I've talked to health officials, and health officials have told me hospitals are going bankrupt because elective surgeries were canceled. They didn't realize how much we rely on those elective surgeries to pay hospital people. And, nurses at hospitals are becoming TikTok famous because they're not doing nothing but TikTok videos. The hospitals are not being overrun with the pandemic. The hospital beds have not been overrun. We put up 150 extra bed hospital here in Woodland Park, and not one of those beds were used for COVID-19 people. Yeah. And so, the money grab, the schools, the educational system, I will say this, part of me is like, good. They're updating the educational system, right? A part of me has looked at this and said, our schools are archaic, the way that they run, the way that they look, the way that they educate kids. I personally homeschool my kids, so I don't really fall into that category. But now all of a sudden, everybody's a homeschooler, and
that's
virtual
a good thing to come out of this.
Well, that's what I said. I was like, man, it is good. But then on the flip side, domestic violence, kids that are raised in homes that aren't good, and their school is an escape, and their school is where they get fed, and their school is where they get loved by a teacher or something. And so there is the flip side of the schooling thing, shutting down the schools.
But should we, and this is a whole nother conversation that we can have, but should we really, as a society, be allowing that to go on? That the place that a kid gets loved, the place that a kid gets food is school? Like,
no, but that's just
on parents.
But that's just what we've done. That's just where we're at, right?
Yeah, it's become acceptable, like letting your kid live in the basement till he's 40.
Yeah, teachers have literally almost have as much power as like doctors. If they see a kid and they say, oh, that kid needs Ritalin, or that kid needs, antidepressants, or that kid needs some medication, they can make the suggestion, and then the parents are in a bind. They're like having to fight for the freedoms of their own children, I know but that's the world we live in. That's a societal problem that we had before the virus with our children. And now it is becoming more, it's going to become more open, and we're going to see the effects of it. I'm not scared, because again, my life was affected in a sense of some jobs that I had, some things that I've done. I do big corporate conventions. All of those were canceled, and when that trickles down to the hotels and restaurant businesses and stuff, there's hotels that are shutting down. There are major restaurants that are shutting down, that aren't going to open their doors again. We're going to live in a real corporate world after this. The homegrown business is not going to be around the corner, where I felt like in America, we were at a point where like self-employment, homegrown businesses were booming. They were bustling, and all of a sudden they've just been crushed.
But again, that Rahm Emanuel quote, yeah, don't let a crisis go to waste. We can do this the right way and use this crisis to our advantage. Like if we can get enough people coming together as citizens and going the way it used to be, where you talk to your neighbor, you didn't, just send out a tweet. And that was your only form of communication. If we can actually build this, and that's what May 1 really is about. And that's why I call it a party. Is because that's what it's about. It's about reconnecting, and we need to do that with everybody. It's a unification thing. I don't care if you're a Democrat, get your butt out there, because if you believe in America, if you believe in the Constitution, this is for you. This is going to be a historic event.
Yeah, so May 1st, around the country, city capital or state capitals.
Yep.
It's happening today. I'm seeing live streams from all over the country today as well. People that are, not storming the gates, but they're storming the gates,
Yeah.
I think about this in a weird way. Like we have become so large, but we are still so small. Like when the Constitution was written, a couple 100,000 people in the country. Now we're up to 300 million, and so is a document that was written for 300,000, is it still relevant for 300 million? As a Constitution person, how do you think about that?
Absolutely. I mean, don't get me wrong. There is a method in there to amend it if we need to. But if you look at most of the amendments to the Constitution, they're not really needed. They already covered in this document and allowing the freedoms that they were. They just used them in order to make specific cases, because, like gun rights, you have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Well, there's no other way to protect your life than with a gun. There's no other way to protect your pursuit of happiness than with a gun. So they added that Second Amendment in order to specify, hey, you don't get to mess with this part of it. We're going to single this part out. But the Constitution is written in a way that it's applicable until the end of time. And the guys who wrote it weren't just like writing something for the times. These were guys who studied Plato and Socrates. They studied history and the movement that happened in Scotland and their Declaration of Independence. These were very intelligent, very learned men who were mostly businessmen themselves. And they wrote it specifically to be able to be applied forever. Like, I mean, it's a masterpiece. Truly, it is.
Yeah, I agree with you. On the same factor, I'm probably more intelligent than every one of those men who wrote the Constitution, for the simple fact, if I were to say airplane, they would look at me and go, I don't know what that is. Is that an alien? You know what I'm saying? Like, we live in the last 150 years, we were all walking. Like, we weren't even running around on horseback. We were walking. And so I hear the argument of these were very intelligent men. They were also smoking hemp on their porches too. And they outlawed that. So I'm not a constitutionalist in a sense of, I think that a letter written by men or a document written by men should rule men. I really don't. On the flip side, again, fundamental beliefs of freedom, fundamental truths of every person is created equal, those things are very fundamental in my heart and what I believe, and they align with the fundamental gun rights. I don't think. But the problem is the guys who wrote the Constitution knew nothing of drones, right? They knew nothing of mass destruction, nuclear war. They knew nothing of that.
But that's the thing about the Constitution, though, is it doesn't really delve that deep. It covers just the things that you were just talking about, and that's it.
Yeah.
It all it does is it sets up how government works in a very, 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 very fundamental way, and really in just a way to keep them from being able to take power in one direction or another, keep it all balanced in order to prevent problems. That's why we still have federal laws that are written, state laws that are written, state constitutions, because that stuff wasn't covered in the Constitution and can be adapted over time. The Constitution literally is just like, you're a free man. You can do what you want so long as you're not harming other people. And the government is there to make sure that you don't harm other people, and that's it. And make sure that they don't harm you.
but one lesson we learned from this was the Constitution really doesn't mean that much to the government anymore.
Well, and that's the problem, right? Because the people who are meant to protect it, and this is an old Plato quote, right? Men who are, when you become apathetic to government, the result is you get ruled by evil men. That's not an exact quote, but that's the idea. That's what happens. We've been too apathetic for too long. We've let it just go and assume that they're just going to take care of us. We can't do that anymore.
That. Josh Garrow's artist wrote, how do good men become a part of the regime? They don't believe in resistance. Yeah. And that's a big part. Like a lot of good people out there have woke up like you know, a month ago, a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, you weren't running around with American Revolution 2.0 idea. This all of a sudden woke you up going, I'm a normal dude, got a business, I'm a dad, my son's in the military, he's given his life to this country, and all of a sudden life as we know it has been snatched, from us. And it's waking up a lot of good men. Now the question will be, will the good men join the resistance? Will they join a revolution, or will they sit back and go, okay, back to normal. Life is normal.
Well, and that's why I'm focusing on continuing this thing and making sure that it becomes a continued movement. Because like the Tea Party started doing that back in 2009. They started that movement a little bit, but then they made some mistakes. And the wrong people started representing different ideas, and it got very confused. And that's why I stuck my name and my face on this. I didn't want to do that. But I saw what happened there, and I wanted to make sure that the message stays clear so that it doesn't get confused. It doesn't get hijacked by somebody else with a different message, so that we can keep to these core values. And yeah, I was, I hate to use this term, the woke and the wake up type of thing, because nobody thinks they're asleep. Everybody thinks they're awake. When you tell somebody, oh, well, you need to wake up, they go, I'm already awake. I think you're asleep. And it gets off on a stupid argument.
Yeah. A blind man doesn't see the wall. That doesn't mean the wall doesn't exist, right?
Right. Exactly. But we have to continue this fight.
Yeah, that's something that I'm interested to see what happens. Like, I'm interested that if it was a wake-up call enough for people, and if it's more than just a May 1st gathering on the Capitol, it's always interesting to sit back, and we'll be able to sit back 30 years from now and go, man, remember COVID-19, remember what they did, and how will we look back on that, as men, and even if it just means men in their basement waking up with a virtual channel and speaking their mind, will good men start to stand up? Will good, average, normal, hardworking American men? Because, some people just want to sit back. And I applaud you for putting your face on it, because that's something like I've done. Like, nobody can take it away from me. They can't say, oh, he's a phony, he's a fake, because I'm right here in front of you. I'm not hiding behind a keyboard. I'm not hiding behind a false account. I'm simply, everyone knows who I am. And that's something, when you do it, when you put your face on it, when you're willing to come on camera and say the things that you've said, I applaud that, because you're going to get criticism. The trolls will come out after you. If you have a message worth listening to, there are going to be those 40-year-olds in the basement, or the 12-year-olds in the basement, that are going to go to the keyboard warrior side of things.
Yeah. So two things real quick. I love to call this thing COVID-1984.
COVID-19. Why?
Because the 1984 book, the newspeak that went on there, and all the confusion and the government control. I mean, that is very much where we're at. Like, this was not a zombie apocalypse. This was a Matrix apocalypse. We've got too many people asleep that are the enemy, but they're also the people we're gonna have as our allies once we unplug them from mainstream media. So it's, we're not out here killing zombies. We're trying to unplug people from mainstream media so that they can join this fight for freedom. That's why I like to call it COVID 1984. It's very reminiscent of the 1984 book.
The media jumped on this to say, see, we are the truth tellers. See, we are the real media. See, we are the people you're supposed to trust. Again, it frustrates me because a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, people would have said, oh, Fox, CNN, ABC, NBC, whatever, all of them are fake. Right. Yeah. And now it's almost like even our local sheriff's department here started their own podcast. Listen to us, not the fake media people on social media, not the fake podcast. Listen to our, sheriffs have gotten a lot of power out of this. They're getting a lot of money too. They're getting a lot of money. They're just printing shit. Printing money for this sheriff's department, for this government, for this entity, and so they definitely take advantage of it. Me and law enforcement have a love-hate relationship, but I look at this and go, man, it's scary to think that the power that has come out of this and the things that they have rewritten, the constitutional violations that they've just thrown to the wayside. It's like, oh yeah, the Constitution, yeah, cool thing. We're something new. This is a virus. Yeah, stay at home. That unplugging. I saw me with the guy from the Matrix that was like, just because they lift the stay at home order doesn't mean people will leave home. I think the fear, they've set the fear in. And so I encourage everyone who's listening, show up at your Capitol tomorrow for a party and, share this video with as many people as you can. Josh's a website is up there, AmericanRevolution2.org. Any last thoughts kind of closing this thing out? What do you want to invite people?
Well, one of my favorite quotes, and just to touch on the point you were talking about, one of my favorite quotes is from one of my favorite movies, Boondock Saints. Now we must all fear evil men, but there is another kind of evil which we must fear most, and that is the indifference of good men.
Yeah.
That is what empowers evil men to do bad things. It's good men being indifferent, and we can no longer afford to be indifferent. I was, and this is way too far, and we have to stand up and say never again.
Gotcha. So what's happening tomorrow? It's happening, but what's going forward for you? What do you see for this next year? What are your plans and moving forward with this?
Well, so my original plan was to go directly after that law I was talking about at a federal level that holds government officials directly responsible. But because of the Facebook thing, man, that is my next battle. I want that censorship stopped.
Yeah, tell people real quick, you got kicked off Facebook in a sense, your group did.
Yeah, they removed our page off of Facebook. We were one of the first ones removed off of Facebook for talking about nothing but constitutional rights, wearing a mask, doing 6-foot social distancing, and making this thing peaceful. That was our message. That was our whole message. And I'm the only one who could post on there. That's what I was posting. People would, whatever, comment, and we weren't the strictest with controlling people's comments, but they shut down the page, no reason whatsoever. While at the same time, there's another page that's a Nazi page that's been there since 2011. Are you kidding me? Yeah. We're more harmful than a Nazi page?
Dude, I deal with Facebook jail all the time, bro. I wish Facebook ran like the real world where I could get like a cosigner to bond me out of Facebook jail, because I get thrown in Facebook jail all the time. They haven't shut down my page, but they've tried before. Who knows what's gonna happen when I have you on? They're probably gonna shut down my page after this.
They might. Well, and here's the thing. So back in 1996, there was a law passed that gives them immunity from anything that's posted on there. They're now violating that more than ever. They're becoming a publisher. So they are accountable for anything and everything that's on there. It's a one or the other road. You don't get to be immune and control free speech. It's one or the other. Either you don't have the control or you're responsible for it. You got to choose, guys.
Yeah. So you're a YouTube, that you do have a YouTube channel up. You've got
Do
YouTube
have that.
and American Revolution 2.0. You can find, if you put that in the search, I found it really quickly on YouTube. It should be easy enough to see. If you want to go to the website, his website looks like this, so that you can see what you're, that make sure you're at the right place. He's got video links up to where you can see all his videos and go through his stuff. There you can learn more about what's happening, the groups and all of that happening. Oh, look at that. You got them all censored now.
Well, no, they're not all shut down. We put that logo up
okay.
because Facebook has been censoring, but the
Okay.
Open the States thing was a fantastic movement by this guy, Mark Meckler, who was part of the original Tea Party movement. And he saw how fast they went and attacked him and tried to shut him down. And he's been, they've been censoring stuff of his on Facebook. So what he did was he opened up this website to give everybody a home off of Facebook so they couldn't be censored. And that was awesome. I mean, he reached out and we got on there right away so that we had a place to keep organizing no matter what Facebook did.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hey, man. Hey, thanks for your time today. We could go forever. I mean, we've been going for 55 minutes. It feels like 5 minutes. So, hey, thanks for your time, Josh. Hey, glad that you connected, and let's stay connected, and we'll see what happens after this, and maybe we'll bring you back on and talk to you more about it.
Oh, that'd be awesome, man. I love your show. So thank you.
All right. Hey, thanks for coming on. Hey, were you on InfoWars?
Yeah, I was on InfoWars.
Man, now you're really in the crazy conspiracy with the Alex Jones side of things. I'm gonna have to go check that out. I saw a little me thing from you.
Well, it was on the War Room, not the Alex Jones show. So
okay,
yeah,
so the War Room show. Cool.
Yep,
cool,
but we also been in the Washington Times. John Rappaport talked about this, did an article. Washington Times, not the Washington Post. So
okay,
the more conservative version.
Yeah, whatever, the news, the media.
Yeah.
Hey, well, thanks again for joining me today, and we'll be in touch, man.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, man. I appreciate you helping me spread the word on this.
All right, we'll talk to you later.
All right, bye.
See ya. Thanks for joining Dad with a Phone right now. It's a little different than my normal podcast, but you know what? Who cares? Life is different, and I'll be bringing on some other guests later this week and next week that I've already got scheduled for some different talks. Check out AmericanRevolution2.org for all of Josh's info and to see more about what he's doing. Join them tomorrow at all the state capitals across the country for a peaceful assembly, a party, if you will, to celebrate our freedoms. You can find me at all the links below. You can find all out about Dad with the Phone. If you're just joining, maybe you came over from one of Josh's channel, you can find me at all the links below. And if you want to help support the channel, as always, my bucket is at the bottom of the screen. And so you can throw a couple of bucks in the bucket if you want to via PayPal. Don't feel obligated to do that at all. It's just something we offer so people can give if they want to help support the channel. Thanks for watching Dad with a Phone. We'll be back. I'm sure we'll be back later today with something else, with a different subject, with something new, and we'll go from there. I hope everybody's safe at home. Stay at home wherever you're at in this crazy world we live in. If you're from another country, this is what's happening in America. We'll talk to you guys later. My name's Michael. They call me Dad with a Phone.